unbelievable year. This year, we have a very special person helping us celebrate 100 years of women's constitutional right to vote. This Wisconsin Supreme Court justice rose through the ranks from state and federal prosecutor to court commissioner and election as a Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge. She ran for Supreme Court and won a 10-year term in April of 2018. Please welcome to Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Dallett and Woman of Influence winner in 2019.
Good afternoon, Women of Influence winners, friends, and family. Today I am honored to celebrate not only your accomplishments, but also an important anniversary, 100 years of women's suffrage. It's hard to believe that just 100 years ago, state statutes prevented certain people from voting, including children, idiots, lunatics, and women. Why were women not given the right to vote, you may ask? Like children, idiots, and lunatics, women were presumed unable to use sound judgment. Turn back with me, if you will, to 1848, over 70 years before women won the right to vote. The Seneca Falls Convention in New York was the first ever gathering for women, and a few supportive men, to declare that women should have equal rights to men. It culminated with the issuance of a Declaration of Sentiments. This declaration acknowledged the tyranny that men had established over women by silencing women's voices in the formation of laws that controlled their private and public lives, laws that kept women out of higher education, out of the workforce, and out of any positions of influence. The solution: if women wanted equality, they needed to be able to vote. So the journey on the road to women's suffrage officially began, and not surprisingly, Wisconsin women stood at the forefront. It was one of those women, Ada James from Richland Center, who made Wisconsin the first state to officially ratify the 19th Amendment, granting national suffrage to women. Ada was born into a political family that had been fighting for women's rights for many years. Her father was a senator in the Wisconsin legislature. Her mother organized the local women's club in 1882 to promote women's suffrage. In 1910, Ada and a group of young women organized the Political Equality League. They traveled about the state in a car campaigning for a woman's right to vote. They were described by some opponents as disgraceful to womanhood, if not immoral. They even had the audacity to drive themselves. Eventually, Ada hired an elderly chauffeur to do the driving, thus preserving her womanhood and morality. When Congress finally passed the 19th Amendment, Ada James and her cohorts worked almost night and day for Wisconsin's ratification. Thanks to their efforts, the Wisconsin legislature passed the resolution of ratification the morning of June 10, 1919. When the votes were being counted, Ada got word that Illinois had also voted for ratification that day. But Ada had not worked that hard only to lose bragging rights to Illinois. She persuaded her father to carry the news of Wisconsin's ratification personally to Washington, even lending him her travel bag for the journey. Having arrived in Washington first, Ada James and her father made Wisconsin the first state to officially ratify the 19th Amendment. Attaining women's right to vote was a great victory, but it did not include women of color, who would not be able to vote for another almost 5 decades. And it took more than 5 decades after Ada's father's race to Washington before the first woman would serve on Wisconsin State Supreme Court. In 1976, Justice Shirley Abrahamson became the first woman on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. She holds the record for the longest-serving state Supreme Court justice, having been elected 4 times and serving a total of 43 years. Today, I am honored to stand on the shoulders of influential leaders like Ada James and Justice Shirley Abrahamson, and to have been elected to serve on our Wisconsin Supreme Court. The Wisconsin Supreme Court leads the nation with the highest percentage of women on the court, 6 out of 7. It is a great achievement, but we still have a ways to go. Less than 30% of Wisconsin's judgeships are occupied by women, consistent with the percentage of women serving on other courts nationwide. And this is despite the fact that for the last 25 years, at least 50% of law school graduates have been women. When asked, when will there be enough women on the United States Supreme Court? Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg answered, when all of them are. After all, for 200 years, it was all men, and nobody thought there was anything unusual about that. I don't have to tell this group of award winners about the barriers women face to achieving equality. You have all faced and overcome challenges to get where you are today. From making your voice heard in industries dominated by men, to balancing your career while taking care of your family, a role that still falls disproportionately on women. Yet despite those challenges, you, the 2020 Women of Influence Award winners, have achieved so much. You have created support systems for women and families coping with medical and mental health diagnoses. You have worked toward diversity and inclusion in the business community. You have inspired young women, and you have served the elderly. You have fought for the underdog. You are businesswomen, educators, doctors, mentors, and leaders. You are all women of influence in the Wisconsin community and beyond. We have come so far in the last 100 years, thanks to all of our efforts and those of the women and allies who came before us. But we know that right now, in 2020, this is not a country of equality. In 2020, our country's systemic racism has been moved from the shadows and exposed for all to see. In a letter from Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. explained that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Today, we celebrate the many contributions you have made to our community. I hope you will continue to build on those achievements and use your influence to fight for justice for everyone in this country, regardless of their race, religion, ethnicity, sex, or who they love. And in honor of the brave women and men who fought so long and hard, make sure you cast your ballot on November 3rd. Thank you for all your hard work and inspiration. I am honored to celebrate each of you, the 2020 Women of Influence.
Woo!